Well, before I begin with the talk part, let me introduce myself. My name is Alejandro Francetich. I'm a professor, an assistant professor in the School of Business. I have a PhD in economics, and I'm in the economics area within the business school. Um, and usually when we think about career paths for economists, we think typically public policy, studying things like inflation, growth, trade, or we can also think of banking. Banks are one of the major employers for economists, but we also have economics within the business school. So something that I'd like to talk about is how can economics help within the business world, and I'm going to do this talking a little bit about one of my research projects, which is about going into business with an expert and how economics can help understand some of the intricacies that are involved in this scenario. Okay, so imagine that you guys come up with an idea for a phone or a mobile application, but unfortunately you don't come from computer science, so you lack perhaps the technical skills to bring that idea to fruition. So in order to make it happen, you need to go into some sort of business partnership with an expert, someone who actually has the know-how to bring that idea into reality. Okay? Now, going into business with a tech-savvy partner in this case can be great. They might be the ones that can actually make your dream come to reality. But there are some drawbacks, because if you think about it, if you don't know much about the tech world, then you're not going to be able to verify whether they're doing the right work that you'd like them to do, whether they are working hard, whether they are not really applying themselves. You can't really monitor their progress. If you don't know what their job is like, you have to trust that they are doing their best, but it's sort of a little bit of a blind trust, right? If you can't verify that yourself. And there's actually another thing that we have to take into account, which is if they know more about the tech world than we do, then if in the future we have to renegotiate some sort of agreement, or if the app becomes a success and we want to sell it, having more information or more knowledge about the tech world can give them an advantage when it comes to those future negotiations, right? They might be better at predicting what the price of our shares will be in the future, what the value of the stock on our idea will be once we start selling it, okay? And that information can be used at their advantage and at our expense, okay? Even though we had the idea, having to rely on someone else for expertise puts us at a bit of a disadvantage, right? So the question that I look into is how should we set the terms of the partnership, and how should we carry out the partnership to, in a sense, take advantage of our business partners' expertise without leaving ourselves too vulnerable to their superior knowledge, right? So some of the things that we have to think about are how can we motivate the experts to make sure that they exert themselves and that they do what we need them to do when we can't directly verify what they are doing, right? And at the same time, we have to motivate them to be willing to share their expertise with us if we want to make the right decisions. And this is something that might seem obvious, but it's not necessarily immediate that someone who's an expert will be willing to share their information for free. They may be good people, or they may have some sort of honesty values, but in general we tend to assume that people are self-interested not necessarily in a bad way, but in their self-interest, they might be they might be able to manipulate what they know to get an advantage for themselves, right? So those are the things that we need to consider. And at the same time, we want to keep some of the bargaining power. We want to have some claim to the pie that we helped conceive, taking into account that they have more information. Okay, so this is more or less the setting of what happens when we look into going into a long-term business partnership with someone who knows more than we do about a certain topic. Okay. Now, how does economics help in analyzing these kind of situations? Well, here are some of the insights from my research, and also building on existing research. Some of the insights that we find is that if it comes to the point where we have to dissolve our partnership, so either I have to buy my partner's shares or sell my shares to them, then it should be the expert who determines the price of the shares. Okay? And this may seem counterintuitive because it seems that we're giving the expert who has more information than we do, we're giving them even more power. But it turns out that if we do that, the expert in deciding a price that works for them will inadvertently be sharing some of the information, right? If they set a high price, that will tell us that the partnership is going to be a success, or that they expect that the partnership will be a success, and that's good to know for us, or vice versa, right? So even though it seems that we're giving them more power than they already have, their actions as a result of that power will be revealing of some of the information that they have and we don't. Okay? Now, that would take care of motivating our expert partner to share some of their information with us. What about the part about exerting themselves and actually putting their expertise towards our project? Well, for that it's simple. We have to award them shares. We have to give them enough of a cut in the project so that that is proportional to their expertise and to how much they can bring to the table. And this will be, of course, the motivation that they need to actually exert themselves and work hard at making the app a success. If they don't have a stake in the outcome of the project, then they're not going to have any motivation to work hard, right? And we can't force them to work hard because in this context, we don't know what working hard looks like because we don't know the intricacies of programming, for instance, okay? And then the last thing to take into account and to think about is that if you go into a business partnership with someone that expects to gain more than you in the future, then that may seem like a bad thing, but you can actually exploit this to your favor at the very beginning. Because if someone expects to win a lot in the future, they'll be willing to pay more for that opportunity today, okay? And so this larger cut that they may expect in the future, you can actually exploit that today in the terms of the business proposal. You can ask them to pay an entry fee that is large enough to protect yourself against future negotiation disadvantages. Okay, so in a sense, it's like using their strength against them. Okay, and so these are some of the insights that economics, in dealing with understanding people's motivation, monetary motivation, and business relationships, how it can help us understand these intricacies in going into business relationships with an expert or someone who knows more about the field than we do. Okay? And so this, like I said, is one of the projects that I'm currently working on, and some of the ways in which economics can be relevant not only to managing the macroeconomy of the country, but also the microeconomy of businesses. Okay? So are there any questions about this project or about economics in general? Okay, I'm not sure if I'm doing okay with time.
I think you've gotten plenty of time, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give the stage to my colleague Wei Li. Thank you.
Let me first pull up my slides. So I just have one slide, so that's very easy there. Same thing, let me briefly introduce myself. So my name is Wei Li. This might be the few names with shortest, number of characters, right? And I'm an assistant professor of accounting with the School of Business. As you can tell, I originally came from China. Actually, my hometown, is very close to Wuhan, or China. So don't get scared. So I didn't go back to China this past break. So you guys should be safe. If you get infected, that shouldn't be from me. So actually, when I was contacted to give a talk, for this course, I was told that I could talk about some interesting cost projects, something like what Alejandro just did. However, I think for accounting, this might not be appropriate because I think most of you guys do not have much accounting knowledge. So just to check, quick check. So does anyone know accounting? Nobody. Okay, you know a little bit. Okay, so outline. Okay. After much thought, I feel like maybe the career path for accounting major students could be a good topic there because this could provide you guys with some useful information before you select your major down the road. So as the accounting major students, what are the possible future career paths? The first one is that generally, most of our students, they go work for the public accounting firms, like the Big Four. I don't know if you guys have heard of these names: Deloitte, Ernst & Young, KPMG, and PwC. So these are right now the top 4 international accounting firms. And for sure, you can there are many other smaller accounting firms available there, like Grant Thornton, Moss & Adams, and so on. So many of our students, they also go work for those smaller accounting firms. And when you work for these accounting firms, you will work in one of 3 different areas that would provide different types of services to the clients. The first type is the auditing services. So does anybody know auditing services? What do these accounting firms generally audit? Anybody? No idea. Okay. So the basic background idea is like this. For our modern corporations, there is a separation of ownership and management. Okay, for example, for Microsoft, so you guys know that Microsoft has a lot of owners. So generally, we call them as shareholders. So they own the firm, but they do not manage the firm by themselves, right? So instead, these shareholders, they hire professional managers to manage the firm, the CEOs, the CFO, the top executives. And as a result, these top managers, they will have to prepare some financial statements to disclose, how well they have managed the firms, for the shareholders, for the owners. So this is something I think you guys should understand, without monitoring, okay, by anybody else, these managers, definitely they will have incentive to disclose some false information, okay, in the financial statements, to depict, a better picture, okay, than the reality. What's the reason for that? Because generally, okay, on average, the better the financial performance of the company, the more compensation these managers will earn. So sometimes they will have incentive to cheat. Okay? Then this is why we need auditors, so auditing services. So the auditor's job is to actually audit the financial statements prepared by these companies, the managers, CEO, CFO, to ensure there is no false information disclosed, okay, in the financial statements. So in other words, they are trying to ensure the truthfulness of the disclosed financial statements. So this is just like, when you buy a car, used car, okay, normally you wouldn't believe what the owner says about that car, right? So normally you may want to go hire some car mechanics to check that car to make sure you are not cheated, okay, by the owner. So this is exactly the same idea, okay? And in that sense, auditing is very important, okay, to safeguard the shareholders, investors' asset. So normally we call auditors as the watchdog for the capital market. Maybe you guys, were too young at that time. I don't know if you guys have been born or not at that time. So at the beginning of the century, the Enron scandal, that was due to the untruthful information disclosed in the financial statement, to put it in a simple way. So that's the first. The second type of service is tax services. So you can also, this accounting major student, they can work in the tax department to provide tax services for the clients. They can help their clients, prepare the annual tax return with IRS, help design some optimal tax policies. The last one is that, these students, they can work in the advisory department of the accounting firms to provide some consulting services for the clients. For example, they can help their clients assess the financial risks, help their clients, design, improve their internal control system, etc. That's the sort of the big picture about what you can do in these accounting firms. When you work for these accounting firms, your ultimate goal would be to make the partners. Okay? So that's the like the CEO, CFO of the corporations, and the pay is very good. Okay? And some pros, cons about working for the accounting firms. So the big advantage of working for the accounting firms is that you will learn a lot of things in your early years. You may not believe that. So maybe even in your first year, you can sit in the corporation's board meetings to see the board members to discuss some high-level operation strategies. You may even get a chance to talk with CFO, some top executives at the work site. And also you will probably get experience with multiple industries. So high-tech, financial, general manufacturing industries, etc. So you will get a chance to work for different types of clients in your first year of assignment. The shortcoming is that most time you will have to work long hours, particularly at the busy season. So normally around February, January, February, March for most companies. That's the time they have to file the financial statements, prepare for the audit the company's financial statements. So the work-life balance is not that good. Right? So I think if you are a hard worker, you would like this. But if you are not, you may not want to work for these accounting firms. Fortunately, we have another option available, which is that you can also directly, after graduation, work for the big corporations, so Microsoft, Google, Boeing, etc. And you can work, as the financial accountant to prepare the financial statements for the CEO, CFO. You can work as the internal auditors to audit your own financial statements to make sure you have a good internal control system in place. You can also work as the managerial accountant to provide some operational support for the managers. So a lot of opportunities there. And similarly, your ultimate goal would be to become the CFO or sometimes CEO of the firm. In that regard, this, I think, task is much more difficult than making partner in the accounting firms. So one corporation only has one CEO, one CFO. For accounting firms, they have a lot of partners there. So, and as I just said, so if you want to have a good work-life balance, so you want to go to the same desk at the same time every day to meet the same people, then this is a very good choice for you guys. And on the other hand, the shortcoming here is that you will be just focusing on one firm and one industry. Okay? So that's quite different from the accounting firms here. Okay? So these two options, career paths, are what accounting major students talk most, focus the most on. Generally, I think our accounting students, they have ignored two other good options available here. So the other good option is to work for the government agencies. So as you guys may know, we have federal government, we have state government, we have city government, we have county government, and so on. So a lot of government agencies, they also need accountants. Okay? So there is a huge demand there, but not many of our students, they know that. So the other day, I think in one meeting, I think it's the director of the accounting department for the, I don't know, it's county or city or federal way. So he said, most of his colleagues, okay, are going to retire maybe next, 5 to 10 years. They really need young, fresh blood. Okay, so that's also a very, very good opportunity there for accounting students. And as you know, the government jobs, they may not pay very well, but they have good benefits, right? And the job security is relatively high. So it's also a very, very good option there. The last one is actually, to continue your learning experience. So go get a PhD degree in accounting and become the accounting professors. So just like what I am right now. And this job is also very rewarding. Just to let you know one benefit there, your schedule is very flexible, okay? Unless you are required to come to class to teach. Otherwise, so you can do whatever you would like to do. But you have to do something to survive, right? First. Last but not least, the thing I want to emphasize here is that these career paths, they are not actually mutually exclusive. Okay? So sometimes it's very easy for you to move from one to the other. Okay? So just to give you one example, actually this is what I think most people do in the real world. So first, you can go work for the public accounting firms for a couple of more years, and then you feel like, okay, I don't like travel. I don't, want to work long hours. And during your, engagement in the first couple of years, you build a good relationship with your clients. So these clients are big corporations, okay? And they may would like to have you work for them. And then it's very easy for you to go work for your clients. And then so you move from public accounting to private accounting. And also some, students, after they have worked for the accounting firms for a couple of years, they want to learn more, so they go back to school, they go get a PhD degree, and then they become the accounting professors. Not only do they have a lot of opportunities, they also can move across from the different paths. So it's a very good career choice thing, I think. I might be like some marketing person here, but I think from what I've heard, accounting major is very hot for the business school here. So that's all I would like to say for today. So do you guys have any questions? Okay. So if you have any questions, I would like to talk with me, in person. So feel free to do that after class.
Great, thank you. Can we give a round of applause for We also have you're an advisor for business, and are you also an advisor for business? We have two advisors for business. So if you're we're hearing a lot about career paths for accounting, and Alejandro's particular project is sort of interesting about starting a business when you don't have the expertise. So those are things you can ask questions about. But if you also have some questions about becoming a business major and what that takes and what are the requirements. We have two people standing by. Did anybody have any questions sort of off the top of their head that they want to ask right now in just the last minute or so before we need to switch over? Business questions? Good, here we go. One.
What is a good way to explore the different business paths and find the best one for you?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So my name is Jerry Vasquez. I'm an advisor with the School of Business, and Kathleen is also an advisor, and also Beth over there in the corner. So that's a really good question. If you go onto our website, so if you go onto the UW-Bothell website and go to where it says Schools and Programs, and you select the School of Business, you can read about our different options and concentrations. So within the School of Business, if you don't mind if I throw a slide up really quickly. So advising was just here to fill in any time gaps if there were any. A little slideshow prepared, but we can go over really quickly what the prerequisites. So the options and concentrations right here. Okay. So let's take a look. So we have multiple options, some that we heard about today. So accounting, marketing, supply chain. We have concentrations, which are finance, marketing, management, resale management, management information systems, which is kind of a merger between business and IT, technology and innovation management, and then something called self-directed, where you can kind of develop it yourself. But if you go onto our website, you can read a description about each of the concentrations and options. And then we also do prospective student drop-in advising. So if you have any questions that you actually want to ask an advisor before you apply to the program, you can come and talk to us. How many people in here know where the business advising office is? All right, can one of you share with us where it is? How about you? Yeah.
It's on the third floor of Unit 1.
Yep. So you go upstairs, it's Unit 1, 381, and right on our door, we have our drop-in hours for current students and prospective students. So just look at where it says prospective student drop-ins. I believe we have them this afternoon from 1 to 2:45, and then also on Fridays from 9 to 10. So you can always come and let us know if you have any questions. Is anybody in here considering applying to the School of Business in the future? All right, so go on our website, get some more information, utilize those prospective drop-ins, and we can help you answer any questions that you might have. So, great question. All right, so I think our time is up.
I think so. Did you have?
If I may add a couple of things. So some of the programs that the business school offers that are not part of the options and concentrations are minors. We're currently offering a minor in economics, which you can do as part of your business major. And there's also an even newer, I believe, a minor in actuarial science, which is essentially the tools that you need if you want to go into insurance analysis and risk analysis for insurance companies. So those are some of the programs, some of the other programs that we're offering. But if you're interested in business, but you're not exactly sure which specific path you want to follow, I think that the business school admission prerequisites and the core classes give you quite a good broad view of what the different programs are. So you don't need to necessarily pick a concentration or an option the moment you enroll. You can get into business. The core classes will give you a broad view of economics, accounting, finance, and you can make more educated decision once you are inside.
Thank you again very much. All right, career services, we're going to roll.